Welcome to Introduction to Engineering Design. This is Module 7.2, and what we're working on is some sectional views here today. And in doing this, we're going to discuss the hole wizard a little bit more in detail than we have before. So we did a presentation prior to this that talked about the different hole types and some of the designations for them. So if you open up your assignment, you'll see question 5. It actually asks you to design this hole block. I'm going to go ahead and do that here in SOLIDWORKS. So let's get started. We'll start out basically by extruding out a block, and I'll use a center rectangle here, and we'll dimension this to the width of my block, which is 5 inches, and the height, which is 2 inches. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my unit display here, and I'm going to make this 3 digits. So once again, the way that I did that was I came down here to where it says IPS standard. I went edit document units, changed it, just read 1, 2, 3 here. So I'm 3 digits now. And you'll see why here in just a second. So exit that sketch. I'm going to go ahead and extrude this out to 3 inches mid-plane. And now I've got my basic block. So let's start with our hole wizard. I'm going to pre-select this front face on it and apply my hole wizard to it. My very first hole, as you'll see from the display, is a countersunk hole, 1/2 inch, that's drilled 2 inches deep. The countersink itself is 3/4 inch in diameter, and it is 0.5 inches deep. There's that detail. So go to Hole Wizard. I'm going to go ahead and select a Counterbore hole type. And you'll notice I don't really get these details here, but I'm going to go ahead and select a socket cap screw. So whenever you do the Hole Wizard, what it does is it does 2 sketches. One is the sketch of where the hole is. The second is the sketch of what the hole profile looks like. So this first thing where it says type is the sketch of the hole profile. So I'll choose socket head screw. And I'm going to go ahead and choose a 1/2 inch normal fit. And instead of through all, I'm going to go blind. My depth will be 2 inches. And I click on this Show Custom Sizing. You see where my cursor is right now. This allows me to modify what my hole looks like. So I'm going to make this a true 0.500 inches. I'm going to make my counterbore 0.75 inches. I'm going to make my counterbore depth 0.5 inches. And I'll just leave the drill bit end at 118 degrees. It doesn't really say what it is here. So we'll leave it at 118 degrees, and that's fairly standard. So now I've got my type. Let's go to Positions. And I want to basically click on this center or anywhere on the face here, and I'm going to go ahead and drop it. Now there's a couple different ways that I could dimension this. I'm going to show you a way to take advantage of using a centerline feature. The centerline just describes the middle of the part. So as I click centerline, so I come here and click on centerline, choose a centerline, and I hover along this edge, and we'll get a midpoint. Oops, sorry, I deselected it. Hover along this edge, and I will get a midpoint glyph right there. Click on that midpoint glyph, and I can just go ahead and drop this across, and now I have a center line that's for construction. Go ahead and select. So now I've got a center line, and this hole happens to lie on the center line. So what I'm going to do is grab my hole point, drag it until it's a coincident glyph, so that coincident yellow glyph, and release. Now that hole is aligned to the center line, and it won't move off of it. I can move it back and forth, but it doesn't move up and down. Now I'll go ahead and apply a dimension of 0.75 inches to locate that hole. And accept it. And voila, I've got my hole. Let's move along on the second one. The second hole, and we'll go a little faster, is a 0.5 inch through with a 1 inch counter sink, 82 degrees. Hole wizard again. I'm going to go ahead and do a counter sink hole. I will use an oval head, And again, I'm going to use my custom sizing. So you'll see show custom sizing. That way I can make it exactly what I want it to be. 0.5 inches. The counterbore is, or countersink is 1 inch wide across, 82 degrees. Drill bit will be 118. My conditions for the end is going to be a through all. Now I'll move to my position tab and drop that hole. Same thing, this time I'm in a 3D sketch and I'm just going to drop it. Click on my face, drop the hole. And this time I'll show you another way to position this hole. I'm just going to use dimensions. So it's going to be 1 inch away from my first hole and 1 inch up from the bottom. So I'll click on the counterbore outside diameter of my first hole, and then I'm going to come over and click on the center of my second hole, and I get that center to center dimension. I want to make that 1 inch. And I'm going to make a dimension between the top and the bottom of 1 inch also. I've now dimensioned my hole, accept it, and accept my hole position. So there's my counter sink hole. Next one is just going to be an ordinary hole. So we'll go ahead and choose standard hole, fractional drill size, 1/2 inch. And you can see I've got a 1/2 inch hole. I'm going to position it. Now this one has a tolerance on it, and that's a little different. I'm going to show you a way to do this. Drop my position in, give it a smart dimension, top to bottom, 1 inch, and hole to hole will be 1.25. And accept it. Now you'll notice that each one of these holes has 2 sketches associated with it. And as I hover over, the first one is the location of the hole, the second one is the hole profile. This hole profile, I'm going to edit this sketch. And the reason I'm going to edit this is I'm going to add a tolerance. So my diagram depicts a tolerance, plus or minus 0.02, or a bilateral tolerance. So I can come in and double click on the dimension, which is 0.5, and I can edit this. And I can add a tolerance. I'm going to add a bilateral, and it's going to be plus or minus 0.002. And now I've added those dimensions. You'll see those appear. Exit that sketch. The hole looks the same, but it's got a tolerance dimension in it. Last hole I'm going to put in is going to be a 1/4 inch hole that's 1 inch deep. 0.375 counter bore, a 1/4 inch deep. Hole wizard. And we'll make this a counter bore. We'll use a 1/4 inch and custom size this so it reads exactly as the directions say. So 0.25. Counter bore is 0.375 across. Counter bore depth is 0.25. End condition on this hole will be blind and a depth of 1 inch. It's all written right there. Go to my positions, click on the surface where I want to drop it, go ahead and drop it. You'll notice I get a glyph there that shows it's horizontal. I do still need to give it some dimensions, and I'll go hole to hole, again 1.25, and bottom up of 1. Fully defined. And accept that hole. I've now got my drill block made, and we'll pick up for a sectional view in the next video. Thanks for watching.